anyone not ready? Plan. The United States federal government should increase its protection of intellectual property rights by requiring compensation for content used to train artificial intelligence. Contention 1 is inherency. In the status quo, artificial intelligence, AI, uses copyrighted works without permission. This disrespects intellectual property and undermines journalism. O'Brien 24. Artificial intelligence products wouldn't be so eloquent had they not ingested huge troves of copyrighted human works. OpenAI is saying that they have a free ride to take anybody else's intellectual property, diverting web traffic away from the newspaper and other copyright holders who depend on advertising revenue to keep producing their journalism. Next, contention 2 is solvency. The plan requires AI companies to pay publishers. That's critical to support journalism and save global democracy. Raj 24. News media bargaining codes should be used to demand compensation for the scraping of content for AI systems. Requiring tech companies to license the use of news publishers' content through legislation would ensure that smaller publishers would also be able to negotiate for the use of their content and data. As important as it will be for journalism to adapt and to integrate AI, newsrooms that replace journalists will hasten its demise with profound ramifications for democracy. News outlets need government regulations. Advantage 1 is democracy. First, independent journalism is on the brink. Now is key to save the industry and prevent the decline of democracy. Farid 24. The decline of news media has been exacerbated by the internet and digital platforms. 2,900 newspapers have closed or merged since 2005. This has left broad swaths of the country lacking professional reporting. As local journalism declines, government officials conduct themselves with less integrity. Citizens are less likely to vote, less politically informed, and less likely to run for office. 2024 could be an extinction-level event. Next, second, AI is an existential threat to journalism. The plan is critical to save the industry and prevent corporate control of the media. Raj 24. Policymakers must enforce IP rights. Last year alone, the U.S. journalism industry slashed 2,700 jobs and 2.5 newspapers closed each week on average. Advances in artificial intelligence make it difficult for sectors like journalism to remain independent. The AI revolution extends the power that a handful of firms maintain over information and discourse. AI companies are building their systems on theft. AI will divert readers and potential subscribers away from publishers, undermining not just the ability to produce quality journalism, but also the underlying business models. Third, status quo AI risks democratic decline. The plan is key to prevent global war and tyranny. Echenique 23. Autocracies will continue undermining the liberal world order as long as the crisis of liberal democracy is not reverted. Poorly regulated AI could backfire against democracy. Social media and AI lead to violence, war, and autocracy. Backsliding generated feedback loops in the 1930s that resulted in World War II. Similar forces are again working in the 2020s. I now stand ready for cross-examination.
All right. Okay. Let's start with your O'Brien evidence. It says that lawsuits over AI copyright violations are happening in the present. If AI is stealing intellectual property, why would these lawsuits fail?
So, O'Brien quotes a lawyer whose professional opinion is that the lawsuits are likely to fail. And that's what the evidence says. So that's why these lawsuits are going to fail.
Okay. How would you talk a lot about independent journalism. How would you define independent journalism?
So independent journalism consists of newspapers that are small, newspapers that are weekly rather than daily newspapers, niche newspapers, non-English language newspapers, and newspapers that are local. And that's our RAG evidence.
Okay, and how much does it cost to run one of those news outlets?
So I don't know exactly how much it would cost to run one of those outlets, but our solvency card, which is RAG 24, says that that regulating AI use of copyrighted materials would be enough to save these industries from going under.
Okay, and Your second piece of RAG evidence says that even with the increased traffic from social media and the internet, the revenue that companies receive from ad sales, that media companies receive from ad sales, is declining. How does AI licenses change this fundamental shift away from papers being able to support themselves?
Yes, so AI licensing fees resolve these other forms of corporate control, but because they allowed smaller news media companies to be preserved and to negotiate for their data, and AI itself is a larger cause than corporate control.
Do you have evidence that says that AI is a larger cause of corporate control than social media and ad monopolies?
Yeah, it's in the card that you mentioned, the RAG 24.
All right.
Alright, just to say it again, I'll be starting with the disad, and then I'll be moving to on-case arguments. Alright, is anybody not ready? Cool. Then starting in 3, 2... Start with the disad. First is uniqueness. AI development is strong now. The US is a global leader. Homeland Security Today 24. Countries enjoy benefits artificial intelligence has on productivity and the economy. The United States are currently leading the way for AI investment. The United States invests the most in AI, with China placing second, around 60% less. Second is the link. The plan would increase costs and destroy the industry. Britain 24. The explosion of AI led to a spate of copyright cases, lawsuits, which could create giant roadblocks for the burgeoning AI industry. Tech companies infringe their copyrights, reproducing their materials without permission for AI training. Adverse rulings would be disastrous, which has relied on reasonable assumption that copyright law protects their data handling. Imposing copyright liability on creators of AI models will either kill or significantly hamper their development. Third is the internal link. AI is critical to overall innovation. It is a key driver of new technologies. Urban 24. Innovations in artificial intelligence shape the future of humanity across every industry. AI is the main driver of emerging tech, like big data, robotics, and generative AI. Companies rely on AI to handle simple conversations with customers and answer basic queries. AI's ability to analyze massive amounts of data accelerate the decision-making process. Fourth is the impact. Innovation is critical to solve global crises. Von Schomburg 22. Innovation is widely presupposed in terms of commercial value. Our geopolitical landscape faces an unprecedented crisis, overwhelmed with global issues such as climate change, water shortage, loss of biodiversity, and pandemics. These issues increasingly urge innovation to generate societal value beyond mainstream incentive. Now I will be going on to case. First, the status quo solves. The courts are already taking action. Sabre et al. 24. Existing copyright laws are used to challenge new AI technology. Some of the questions that federal courts around the country are now addressing. The decisions will set binding precedent. As AI continues to advance, the protection of IP becomes paramount. Courts are just beginning to grapple with questions, and as technologies evolve, it is crucial for legal frameworks to foster innovation. Second, the affirmative's own Farhi and Raj evidence indicates that social media is the main driver of the collapse of journalism. Google and Facebook's monopoly over online advertising means that subscription is one of the last revenue streams, which the app completely destroys, so there are alternative causes. Third is solvency. Copyright regulations fail. The system wasn't built for AI. Marone 24. Resolving legal questions around generative AI aren't really about copyright at all. Copyright is not a good tool to protect individual privacy, research ethics in AI development, or the use of surveillance tools employed. Those issues rightly belong in the sphere of public policy. We shouldn't be using copyright as labor policy to figure out the role of humans in the world of automation. Fourth, no impact. The plan doesn't prevent the collapse of democracy globally, since US copyright does not change AI policy globally. This means the app cannot solve the impact for global democracy. Fifth, no impact. Democracy is resilient. Levitsky and Way 24. A large majority of democracies have survived. Democratic resilience, as development remains a powerful source of persistence. There are almost no dictatorships in the world's wealthiest countries, and democracy has proven surprisingly resilient in the 21st century. I now stand ready for cross. All right,
Alright, so your SABRE evidence says that courts are restraining AI in the status quo. So why has that not already caused the disadvantage?
Right, so I think that what the Sabre et al. Evidence is trying to indicate is that right now we're already hearing court cases that are around the issues that the Act presents, which means that all we have to do is wait for those decisions to be finalized, and then the plan will kind of already be implemented.
Okay, so moving on to your disadvantage.
Yeah.
You say that you say that limiting public AIs affects innovation kind of broadly, but
Yeah.
most businesses use their own internal AI program. So how do you resolve that?
Yeah, so I would say there's two responses to that. The first is that proves how much AI is utilized in like the public sphere, right? Which means that fostering innovation in those areas affect everyone's lives. And then second, we also think that our RAG evidence explains that AI technology can be used for innovation to solve global crises, right? So there's a bigger importance to this than just like Google chatbot.
Okay. So your von Schomburg 22 evidence predates the broad spread of AI coming from 2022. How does the evidence make the claim that AI innovation is key to solve crises?
Yeah, so I think, again, one, I wouldn't argue that von Schomburg is like before AI exploded, right? Like Watson and other AI-assisted tools already existed at that time. So it was true in 2022. But even if it wasn't, I think that what the card is trying to say is that innovation is still critical in developing tech in order to solve crises like climate change, right? So we need technology to continue to adapt.
Okay. On your Homeland Security Today uniqueness evidence,
Yeah.
It makes the argument that AI is being invested in worldwide. So why doesn't that investment solve the global crises that you're talking about?
Yep, so I think the Homeland Security evidence explains that the person in second place is still 60% investing less than the United States, which means that the US is still the leader and needs to do something. Thank you.
First, I'm going to do an app overview, then I'm going to do an impact calculus, then I'm going to do a line-by-line response to all the arguments made by the one NC by Logan, and then I'm going to go and do some answers to the disad. Does everybody understand that? Okay, I'm starting time now. So for my overview, I'm going to explain what the app does. The impact of the affirmative is an authoritarian rise, which causes global war, which leads to extinction. The plan solves for this impact because journalism is key. The plan stops the AI industry from killing journalism, which is needed to keep the government in check. Next, now onto my impact calculus. Vote AF because case outweighs disad. First, magnitude. Global war draws in multiple nuclear powers, which causes extinction. Second, risk. Authoritarianism is on the rise now as far-right actors are being elected into governments around the world. Think Trump, Putin, Viktor Orban. The decline of democracy in the U.S. gives other countries to turn to authoritarianism. Third, on time frame, authoritarianism is already happening. Now is key with an election on the horizon. There's a chance for newly elected officials to seize control of our democracy and dismantle it. Next, on to the line by line. On 1MC1, the negative says status quo solves. But first, our O'Brien evidence answers this. He cites an expert who claims media outlets are not likely to win the uphill legal battles. Next, on 1NC2, the negative says there are alternative causes to journalism collapse, but our RATSC evidence says AI exacerbates the harmful effects of social media on journalism, which again the plan addresses. Second, the plan creates a new revenue stream that will save the industry. On 1NC3, the negative says the AF does not solve. But first, our RATSC evidence says that AI companies will pay publishers through the AF, which won't rely on the copyright law that the Moroni evidence critiques. And then second, their evidence is non-responsive to the AF because it only assumes courts and not the new licensing fee scheme the plan implements. On 1NC4, the negative says the plan doesn't prevent democracy collapse outside the U.S. But our evidence says that the U.S. is key to generating democracy abroad. So we don't have to win that other countries will change AI laws, just that we prevent U.S. democratic decline. Second, even if we lose, that other countries will follow our democratic examples. U.S. authoritarianism itself is an existential threat that we must address on our own since we are a global superpower. On 1 and C5, the next says democracy is resilient, but our etrich evidence says that democracy backsliding will happen soon. Second, current events prove that fascism is on the rise globally. With an election here in November, we must prevent the authoritarianism now. I am now going to move to the DISAD, extending DISAD or answering to the DISAD. First, AI innovation is low now. Do not believe the hype. DVEC 2024. AI hype is coming down to earth. AI constantly makes mistakes. Scientific papers are undermining the claims about the tech's capabilities. AI industry is also facing a growing wave of regulatory and legal challenges. The road to success is full of roadblocks. Next, second, there's no link in turn. Journalism is critical to AI development. RATS 2024. Without access to human-generated high-quality content that journalism provides, AI will malfunction. Journalism that focuses on niche topics, breaking news, and investigative reporting are also likely to be valuable for AI. Third, no impact. Innovation is declining now. Lawler and Colleen, 2023. The rate of technological innovation is slowing, according to an analysis of millions of research papers of patents. Research is shifting as incremental innovations become more common. I now stand ready for cross-examination.
You ready?
Yeah.
Let's go to your Lawler and Colin evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain the warrant or the reason for why innovation is declining now?
The warrant is saying is that due to the analysis of all fields, these big picture innovations that sure this claims is happening is not really happening anymore. A lot more incremental, slow innovations are going. So there's no reason to believe that AI is going to or our plan is going to cause these big things to fall.
Yes, we are going to only be talking about the disadvantage. We'll also have an overview, just like you had for the 2AC, but it will be on the disadvantage. Okay. Is everybody ready? Nice. Okie doke. For the overview, the impact of the disadvantage is global catastrophe from all the crises facing humanity right now. Global warming, biodiversity loss, food and water shortages, and more all have the potential to wipe out life on Earth. Most people think of AI as something to help with their homework or create funny photoshops online. But the real power of machine learning is the ability to process huge amounts of data and connect patterns that are invisible to the naked eye. Our von Schomburg evidence lists existential crises, including climate change and food and water insecurity, that have the potential to wipe out life on Earth if we don't resolve them in the next few years. After years of failing to develop solutions with human intelligence, AI is our only chance to avoid global catastrophe on these fronts. The plan kills AI development by forcing AI companies into payments for every copyrighted material ever used to train an algorithm, which will destroy the industry. That's our Irwin 24 evidence. Vote negative because the disadvantage outweighs and turns the case. The plan relies on continuing payments from AI, investment funding and development to keep journalism from being stuck in the same position it's in now, being killed by tech monopolies. First, our magnitude is extinction. All the scenarios listed in our impact evidence have the potential to wipe out humanity, if not all life on Earth. Second, the risk of extinction is massive. Climate change, water and food shortages, and biodiversity loss are proven to be happening and already causing devastating effects that we all can see. And third, The time frame is short. Climate science alone has told us for the past decade that we only have 1 more year to prevent the point of no return, and we're no closer to solving the problem and averting disaster. On to the line by line. First, on uniqueness. Extend our uniqueness evidence. According to our Homeland Security Today evidence, the US is the global leader in AI funding and development. This means that even if there is a chance that AI is needed to prevent global catastrophe, the US companies are the only ones positioned to find these solutions. Second, on the link, extend our Britain 24 evidence. Licensing fees imposed by the AF stop AI development and kill further investment. That's the link. Third, there's no turn. To avoid global crises, we need machine learning algorithms and data centers, but not the form of generative AI that's trained on large language models. We don't need news updates for AI to learn how to solve global warming through carbon capture. We don't need AI large language models to show us how we can redistribute resources better. These are things that are science-based, not current events-based. And fourth, extend our internal link. According to our Irwin 24 evidence, since the AF kills funding for AI companies, they undermine scientific AI models as well. They conceded the internal link, and their no-impact evidence agrees with us. They said this is across all fields and cross-sects, that their Lawler and Colleen 23 evidence talks about human scientific innovation slowing down, which makes it impossible for us to solve these problems without AI contributions. I'm ready for cross-sects.
Okay, everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay, so I have a question about your link card. How does the plan, like, okay, so our plan is talking about regulating large language model AI systems.
Yep.
Whereas it seems like a lot of the innovation you're talking about is like these other like big scientific AIs
Yep.
that are different. Like, AI is not just a catch-all phrase. So how does our regulation of one AI system immediately implicate your AI system that you're talking about these like large-scale discoveries, innovations?
Right. So these science and tech innovations, they take a long time for AI algorithms to be able to work on them. And so the companies that are running these scientific algorithms are funding themselves through the more public-facing large language models. So if the large language models, which are giving them their market value right now, are put out of business and become super unprofitable overnight, that means nobody's going to want to invest in those companies anymore, which means that they lose their funding for science.
All right, let's access the time frame question. I think you're talking about a lot of like big issue impacts like climate change and food security, which are big impacts. However, in our time frame analysis, we immediately said that our impact is going to be accessed by the November election with Trump and Biden on the ballot and other authoritarian leaders being in office now. How do you guys win on a time frame when I've given you a specific time frame of November? Even with your climate change impact, you said a year. November comes before a year. So how do you win on a time frame?
Right, so none of your evidence says that you'll be able to prevent one party from winning the election in November. It says that you're going to prevent authoritarian regimes. So there's no evidence that says that your time frame is like November. It just says that you're going to be able to prevent policies from going into place that are going to increase authoritarianism. Whereas science has been telling us since I was in middle school that we only have until like 2025 to stop the temperature from going up for climate change. So it seems like yours is largely based on speculation while our time frame is pretty solid.
Like Alicia said, the order is just going to be on case. Is anybody not ready? Cool. First, extend 1MC1, the status quo solves. They say O'Brien proves that media outlets won't win legal battles, but We say their O'Brien evidence doesn't explain why these will not pass. It is no reasoning for why it is an uphill battle. The US courts are currently already hearing cases surrounding the protection of IP. Prefer our SABRE evidence. It lists specific IP cases that are already addressing the issues presented by the AF. Since courts are already making legally binding decisions, the plan is useless. Second, extend 1NC2. There are alternative causes to democracy collapse. They say their RAJ evidence says that AI exacerbates social media's impact on journalism. However, this does not respond to how companies like Google or Facebook will increasingly dominate online advertising, meaning the real cause of democracy falling will never be addressed by the plan. Prefer our analysis of their RAJ and Farhi card. They both explain how corporate control has taken away money from the journalism industry way before the explosion of AI. Last, extend 1NC4. The plan doesn't prevent the collapse of democracy outside of the United States. They say their Echnik evidence proved that US is key to generating global democracy. But we say that their evidence does not argue that the US supports other democracies. It only states that US decline would affect other countries, which, sure. And they say US democracy collapsing alone is an impact. But their own Echnik evidence does not suggest this is true. There is no reason why US democracy decline is an existential threat. This means that if US democracy falling does not cause other countries to collapse, then the impact of the affirmative is not existential. Thank you.
Alright, so I'm going to start on case with an overview, impact calculus, and line by line, and then I'm going to move to the dissed. Is anyone not ready? The impact of the affirmative is the rise of authoritarianism, which causes global war and leads to extinction. The plan solves the impact because it prevents corporate control of the media, which further prevents authoritarian rise. Next, on to impact calculus. Vote AF because the case outweighs the dissed. First, magnitude. Global war goes nuclear and causes extinction. The dissed is based on vague global crises, while we have a specific impact scenario that will be triggered in a few months. Second, risk. We outweigh. Global authoritarianism is on the rise now. US democracy is the main bastion against other countries' authoritarianism. Third, time frame. We happen first. Authoritarianism is already happening. Now is key with an election on the horizon. Next, onto the line by line. The negative says status quo solves. But first, the neg never reads evidence that lawsuits fail. Their SABRE-EV only talks about the need to develop precedents in AI cases. Prefer our O'Brien evidence, who quotes an expert opinion over the neg's evidence, which, like Bigfoot, does not exist. Second, the neg says monopolies are the main reason for journalism's decline, but this doesn't invalidate the act. The journalism industry is on the brink now, and AI theft will tip it over the edge. The revenue generated by regulating AI will solve. That's RAJ. Next, the negative says that the plan doesn't prevent the collapse of global democracy. But first, we don't have to win that the plan affects other countries directly. Our Echnik evidence says that US democracy stands against warmongering authoritarians, so saving journalism here prevents authoritarianism at home and abroad. Second, extend that US authoritarianism alone is an existential threat. Political science empirically shows that without democracy, war is more likely. On to the dissed. Extend the 2AC1, no uniqueness. The neg says the US is the global leader in AI, but this doesn't mean that AI benefits science and tech now.
So, we're going to start with the disadvantage with the overview. Oh, let me take this off. Disadvantage with the overview, and then we're going to go on to the case. Yeah, everybody ready? Okie dokie. Without AI, the world is doomed. Forget democracy, there won't be people to participate in it if we can't use AI to solve global warming, biodiversity loss, escalating conflicts, and various other crises that have the potential to end life on Earth. They concede that human intelligence is not enough to solve these problems in science right now. That's our von Schomburg evidence. This is an extinction level magnitude with 100% risk because we've seen scientific evidence of the environmental impacts for decades and haven't solved them yet. While these impacts may not kill us tomorrow, we're only a few years away at most from them becoming irreversible. You vote negative because the dissent outweighs and turns the case, forcing generative AI companies to pay licensing for all the online content they've ever used to train their models, wipes out the US AI industry by exhausting their funding and killing future investment. Even if you think the AF impact is sooner than ours, their solvency requires AI companies to remain in business to prop up journalism. So their plan means they kill any chance of solving their own impact. On the line by line, extend our uniqueness. They say AI development is low now, but they don't consider how low human scientific innovation has become, which they conceded in the 1AR. Prefer our Homeland Security Today evidence. The US is leading the industry now, and Irwin explains that this is key to tackling problems science has been unable to solve. On the case, extend that their own Radsheet evidence and Farhi evidence indicates journalism will collapse regardless of AI. There's other causes for journalism losing money, and unless AI is paying them forever and ever, it won't save them.
Okay? The impact of the affirmative is the fall of democracy. Without democracy, this impact will have wide-ranging implications on the stability of our greater society. The falling of democracy in the United States leads to other authoritarian countries starting conflicts, leading to global escalation. Once again, the plan solves for this impact because journalism is key. The plan stops the AI industry from killing journalism. We just need to keep the government in check by holding our government officials to account. Let's go back to the impact calculus. Vote AF because the case overwhelmingly outweighs the disad. First, magnitude. Global wars draw in multiple nuclear powers, which will cause extinction. This is a much bigger impact than their vague magnitudes going on. Next, on risk. Authoritarianism is on the rise now as we speak. Far-right actors are being elected in the governments around the world. Did you guys watch the RNC convention last night? We are seeing authoritarianism in government as we speak. This means the decline of authoritarianism means that there's no one to stand against authoritarian regimes. In time frame, authoritarianism is already happening now. The AF has given a clear timeline when our impact will hit, and that is the November election. And they kept on giving their own time frames, but vague times, even with their time of climate change impact being 2025. When I was a kid, the timeline for climate change always changed. When I was in elementary school, I was told that climate change would hit us in 2010. We're beyond that point. We have a definite date in November when our impact will happen if this election goes the wrong way. Next, for the line by line, they say that there are alternate causes of journalism collapse. However, we prefer our interpretation of the evidence. The Ratchet card explicitly says that the plan can only solve for local, niche, and non-English publishers. Now, on to the disad. We're going to extend 2AC1. The disad is non-unique, which means that the disad will happen regardless of the plan. They say innovation is high, but it doesn't.
All right, let's give it up for our demo debaters.